It is that time of year, my AKAPADers. It's horror season. It's October. It's the 31 Days of Dread, where we do on this podcast, AKAPAD, the Film Buff Podcast. That's me. We do one horror movie a day for the entire month of October. This year, it's nothing but black and white movies. Let's go. Almost 20 million eyeballs, which was fascinating, mind-blowing back in the day. Almost 20 million people watched X-Files Season 5, Episode 5. 5-5 came to you on no AKA Patters. Welcome back to look, you guys know the drill. Welcome, my AKA Patters. Welcome back to the show of shows. We're marching through the 31 Days of Dread. And this episode, full confession, I had recorded this episode without a core memory. Today we're talking the postmodern Prometheus, Season 5, Episode 5 of the X-Files, 1997. This is a black and white episode. This is a clear nod to Chris Carter's love and fascination to the Universal Monsters movies. We've been talking a lot about those movies this year because this year's theme of the 31 Days of Dread, one horror movie a day for the entire month of October, is black and white. And previously, so I had this episode scheduled almost towards the end of the month. I recorded it, didn't like it. And yesterday we dropped Creature Walks Among Us, 1956, I believe. That's the very last of the Universal movies, the Universal monster movies. And then opening up this month, we did the beginning of the Universal monster movies with Phantom of the Opera, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, all silent black and white movies. They're equally fascinating. So Chris Carter's the guy. Chris Carter might be the first TV name, TV creator, writer, creator, visionary. They call these guys showrunners now that I became aware of. We're all the way back in 1997, and I'm hustling. I'm a busboy. I'm all over the place. And the way I got my movie news, movie knowledge, like any level of interest was, you had to watch Entertainment Tonight, which was kind of syndicated too. So if you missed it, it came on 5 or 6 o'clock, but it would run later and maybe run through syndication through some of the syndicated channels. And AK Powders, this is even during the age of cable, and this is before the age of the internet. The internet is just coming into being here. But you would have to catch reruns. So it would be like Entertainment Tonight, Premiere, I believe, had a show, and there would be local syndicated movie themed or pop culture themed. Like one of them was called the Anti-Gravity Room that we had in my area, and TBS, TNT, MTV. They would run specials around movies and have entertainment focused news programming. So to gather the info, you kind of had to be diligent. You had to know where to go. So leading into this, I remember there being articles, interviews with Chris Carter. I don't know why this was a focal point, but X-Files had reached, let's just say they were at their peak. And now X-Files will continue. If this is season 5, X-Files would continue to season 11, I believe. A lot like ER, it would maybe come into being by the 3rd season. And then, and here's a crazy thing. If you want to just compare the people in the room, your creators, once they start getting attention, once they know there's eyeballs on them and there's money coming in, there's this peak that happens. We see a similar peak with ER. We see a similar peak with X-Files. We see it my AKA Padders, but Friends, Seinfeld, and Cheers. Season 5 becomes this, like we don't have to struggle. The first 2 seasons are to get the audience, not to get canceled. Season 3 rolls around, and you're almost like reforming the show. And you have to watch, and this is almost like, again, oh my God, we're all over the place. Like, if we go to the original Star Trek, the 1960 Star Trek, it lasted 2 seasons. And there was such an outrage, not because people wanted that show to continue, but it was a little bit of the sense that that show had not come into being yet, that there was still so much to figure out. It hadn't become a thing. And if we go to Next Generation, it's like cresting. It's like the pinnacle happens at season 3. They reform the show, and by season 5, we have Star Trek: The Next Generation. And these are loose correlations, my AK Powders. I'm talking a little bit off the top of my brain here. But I would have to, you would have to collect magazines and clip articles and curate things yourself, and you would have to know where to go and what to watch. But Chris Carter was magnified at this point. He was really looked at as the TV guy, and he could do no wrong. And in my view, even with the spin-offs of X-Files, he did no wrong. The X-Files spin-offs, like Millennium, okay, or like the Men in Black, not the Men in Black. Oh, what's the 3 conspiracy guys? These were all good shows, and they all worked with X-Files, but they just didn't catch on. People wanted Mulder, Scully. They wanted X-Files so bad. Later, we would get a lot of the energy of the X-Files. The way that they put Chris Carter in front of that show, we would get that with Lost. And ever since Lost, we all became aware of showrunners. I'm leaving that chime in there, aka Padders. Look, we Peter A. DeLuca. Things get crazy, things get hectic for me from time to time. There are days, and I wish I was exaggerating. Actually, I hope one day you get as busy as me. I want your phone to go off day and night like mine does. I want you to have to mute notifications. I want you to actually, go full circle. Not be able to look at your phone, but also be paranoid that you're not looking at your phone. This is where we are. But anyway, I just had I was expecting a phone call. It was a very, we'll call it passionate discussion, but we're over it, and now we're back recording. So with no other interruption, like Chris Carter led the way of being, and you might say, well, Pete, what about like Aaron Spelling? We know him. 90210, Love Boat. I believe at one time owned the biggest private residence, maybe in the entire U.S., or I know at least the East Coast, which is, a lot of money there, so that's notable. Aaron Spelling, TV show creator, producer, like 100%, right? Dealt with all the stress, signed all the checks, that guy. Chris Carter was a creative force, a guy that seemed to come out of nowhere, and what he had and the vision for the X-Files was just
sound production.
It was
take 2.
Perfect timing. It's very similar to such a hot, passionate episode. But I'm breaking the flow real quick, just to remind you guys, if you want to support me, one of the best, easiest, and free ways to do it, leave a comment. Give me a like. I know there's someone out there that that loves film as much as I do, that love the film industry as much as I. Show this to them. Comments, likes, and reviews, positive or negative, it doesn't matter. We need to increase our reach, and to do that requires your involvement in everything that I do. We're linked, we're forever bound. You're the membrane, I'm the muscle. So guys, let's just do it. One review. Do you have it in you? Okay, back to the show. to why like Men in Black caught on. There was a fascination with government conspiracies that it all boiled over from the 70s and the 80s. A lot of magazine articles, a lot of like even book series, and all of these things. It culminated into culture, and the X-Files represent that fascination. Chris Carter knew what this was, and he knew it so well that when he channels, like, I think he has like this analytical ability. He took, and AKAPAD, you have to remember, these are 45-minute episodes. He took everything that made the Universal Monsters special, and he boiled it down to 45 minutes. He kept everything in his world, in his universe. Mulder and Scully are still Mulder and Scully. Mulder being this empathetic, I don't even think like a P word. He's very empathetic to the plight of the monster. Carter, Julian Andrews, she is by the book. She's exact. She's this, like one's clay and one's steel, but everyone's within character, and we get this speech. We get this speech in this in this episode. It's one of the best speeches, best monologues. The creature, the Prometheus, and I know this episode begins and bookends in like a little bit of a comic book. I think is Mortor. That was his like Yeti name. Like, so in this town, they saw him, and he got this like urban name. I believe it was Mortar, like Mortar. Feel free to fact check me. AKAPAD, we're doing a lot of things off of memory here. Yeah, so the monster gives this origin story, and if you're not like pulled into the power of writing in that scene, and the crowd, right, like the mob hunts him down, right, like we're doing the story of Frankenstein here, and the mob, it's like it's so self-aware. The mob says exactly what the audience says when the speech is done. When we know how, like, again, how bad of a life, how sympathetic of a life this creature had, the mob goes, "Oh, he's not a monster after all," and they kind of just like walk away. And Mulder and Scully take the monster with them, and then we get this meta moment. This is wild. So Chris Carter supposedly listened to a lot of Cher as he worked on episode 5 and season 5 of the X-Files. Cher, they go to a Cher concert at the end of this episode, and Cher sings. I don't know what song it is, but it's one hell of a song. Like well laid out within the episode too, because you get a little bit of the song when they're in the car, and then you kind of, again, like slow reveal to what's happening. But we get this like moment of acceptance where the creature is being accepted into society, and it's also a Mulder moment. It's Mulder knowing how to appeal to the creature and how to maybe make things right, because society, being society, like stricken it. But the meta moment is that, well, the design for this creature, for the monster, for the Prometheus, if you will, it looks a lot like Mask. A little bit like Mask, a little bit like The Elephant Man, the Mel Brooks movie, by the way. And you get this moment where, is he the creature, or is this like Cher and the Mask from her movie? Because it's almost like we're giving a nod to that too. And I will say, it's an unconventional, wild ending to end somewhat of a Frankenstein retelling with a Cher concert. But this is a lot of what the 90s were. The 90s were the beginning of nostalgia, the beginning of honoring what came before and not letting things go away. And Cher had enough in the tank, and so did Kiss. And so many other bands were not done, and these bands like were the ones that survived the 90s, and how many other bands in the 90s like didn't survive. So it's like this giant meta moment at the end, and we do get a little bit of this like Frankenstein flair, but it really is a 90s universal horror moment. And I think it's masterfully done. This is one of my favorite single episodes in TV history, and the speech is immaculate. So I did want to wrap this up because when this came on TV, I had to work. I remember it so well. And I came home and I asked my sister, I'm like, did you watch it? And I think she tried to tape it, or I had tried to set the TV VCR timer, and like that didn't work. And that's all. It was always the case whenever you set the VCR timer. Just sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. That was life back then. And my sister, I just remember her saying she really liked this. She thought it was a great episode. And I didn't catch this until like way later, like maybe Sci-Fi Channel reruns or repeats. At one time, the only box set of the X-Files I ever owned was season 5 for this episode. And the, thank you DVD era, because I was able, and here's the wild thing. I can't tell you much about the rest of the season, but this episode I know through and through because I feel that the writing and what Chris Carter is emulating, and I just think the power of Chris Carter is fully displayed in this episode. All right, AKAPAD for 31 Days of Dread. I love you guys. Rock and roll.
Roll sound.
Rolling.
Sound production, take 2.
Let's take this time real quick, AKAPADers, my fellow film buffers, and let's just go over the schedule. This is years in the making. This type of rollout I've been planning for years, but we're finally here. So here we go. Early in the morning, that's the new stuff. 8 a.m. Now 8 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. These are movies maybe of something coming out, like if there's a Marvel movie coming out and we want to do a retrospective on that particular franchise, or if Sylvester Stallone comes back and gives us Rocky Part 18, we might want to use the later time slots for a week or two to go over all of the Rocky movies. Now, we have a lot of different threads on this podcast that's explored 8 p.m. So 8 a.m., 8 p.m. Wednesdays at 8 p.m. This is our creator spotlight. We could do an episode on Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, some of the new guys, Spike Lee, even composers, guys like John Williams. This brings us into the weekend. Saturday, Sunday morning. Again, we're back at that 8 a.m. drop. We do cartoons because I want to emulate the times where you would wake up with a bowl of cereal and watch cartoons all day Saturday and all day Sunday, and then eventually you would get to touch grass because you would have one of your friends knocking on your door to play in a touch football game or even some baseball, basketball. The weekend nights, let's get into education. 8 p.m. Again, all of our drops are either 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. But the weekend nights, documentaries, and I focus on creative documentaries because I feel like a part of this film buff movement that we're all bathing in, that I'm super grateful for, is education. And some of where we're finding our facts, some of the general enjoyment, because I love documentaries, all of this is explored at 8 o'clock p.m. And trust me, there's a lot there. There's a lot out there that I didn't even know existed. And we're going to go beyond that too. We're going to get into some of the graphic art, some of the special effects, some of the makeup documentaries. There's a lot to learn, and I'm so happy to bring you the 9 p.m. because you guys know I'm an autodidact. I am self-educated. Sure, I have some certifications. Sure, I spend time at the Art Institute of Philadelphia for animation. But in large, I'm a self-educated, self-made person that's connected to the weekend 8 p.m. drops. My AKAPADers, my film buffers, I hope to see you there for all of it. I love you guys, and rock and roll.
Okay, that's a wrap.